Welcome to episode 1 of Principal Science. I'm your host, Principal Science. Each episode, I'm going to introduce you to scientists and engineers, science and engineering facts, as well as ideas that have changed our world. I'm going to share STEM stories with you and end each episode with a scientific principle. Enjoy episode 1 of Principal Science.
The scientific word of the day is absolute zero. Well, it's actually 2 words, but absolute zero. This temperature is the coldest possible temperature. It is minus 459 degrees Fahrenheit. The temperature of a sample depends on how quickly the atoms or molecules in it are moving relative to each other. What we call ice is when water molecules are moving very slowly. See, in ice, molecules are still moving. Water molecules moving very quickly become steam. When molecules are near absolute zero, they cease moving altogether. Nothing can be colder than absolute zero, and that is our scientific word of the day.
This day in 1973, NASA launched Pioneer 11 with the goal of exploring 2 major planets in our solar system. One America's Cameron Kramer shows the images the probe was able to send back to us, and he tells us where it is right now.
Pioneer 10 is the space probe that completed the first mission to Jupiter. 1 year after Pioneer 10's launch, NASA was ready for a follow-up with the 9.5-foot, 570-pound satellite Pioneer 11, which launched on this day in 1973. Over a year later, in late 1974, the probe passed by the largest planet in the solar system. Just 27,000 miles above Jupiter, 3 times closer than Pioneer 10, the probe snapped detailed images of the Great Red Spot, as well as the first recorded images of Jupiter's polar regions. It was already an achievement, but NASA wasn't done. Using the gravitational pull of Jupiter as a sort of slingshot, the space organization altered the course of the probe to head to a different planet, Saturn. Nearly 5 years after passing by Jupiter, Pioneer 11 became the first probe to encounter Saturn. At the same time, Voyager 1 and 2 were also heading to Saturn, so NASA used Pioneer 11 as a pioneer. It would travel along the same route the other probes were supposed to, as a sort of canary in the coal mine to determine if the path was safe. The route was safe, but it nearly was not, as Pioneer 11 came within 2,500 miles of colliding with one of Saturn's moons. In 1995, NASA confirmed that Pioneer 11's transmitter likely only had a year remaining on its lifespan. Today, Pioneer is silent as it travels about 25,000 miles per hour towards the constellation Sagittarius. The probe is the 3rd most distant object built by humans. But if someone or something ever finds Pioneer 11, the probe that launched on this day in 1973, it has a plaque that details where the object came from.
Did you know Venus is the hottest planet in our solar system with a temperature of over 450 degrees Celsius? Venus is a fascinating planet that is similar in size to Earth, but very different in regards to atmosphere and surface conditions. Its thick clouds lock in the heat, while the surface rages with active volcanoes. That is why the temperature is so hot. Did you know Venus was the hottest planet in our solar system? I didn't.
Scientist of the day. Today, I would like to introduce you to Alexander Graham Bell. Alexander Graham Bell was born March 3, 1847 in Edinburgh, Scotland. The young Alexander was homeschooled until he was 11, following which he attended Edinburgh's Royal High School for 4 years. He enjoyed science, but he didn't do very well overall in school. At age 15, he moved to London, England to live with his grandfather. When he was 16, he and his brother tried to build a talking robot. Alexander Graham Bell is famous as a scientist because he invented the telephone. That is Alexander Graham Bell.
Ada Twist, Scientist by Andrea Beatty. Illustrations by David Roberts. Ada Marie, said not a word till the day she turned 3. She bounced in her crib and looked all around, observing the world but not making a sound. She learned how to climb and made her big break with a trail of chaos left in her wake. She ran through the day, chasing each sound in sight, and didn't slow down till she conked out at night. Her parents were frazzled but tried not to freak. As Ada grew bigger and still did not speak, clearly young Ada, with lots in her head, would have something to say when it ought to be said. That's just what happened when Ada turned 3. She tore through the house on a fact-finding spree. She climbed up the clock just as high as she could. Her parents yelled, "Stop!" as all good parents would. Ada's chin quivered, but she did not cry. She took a deep breath and simply asked why. Why does it tick and why does it talk? Why don't we call it a granddaughter clock? Why are there pointy things stuck to a rose? Why are there hairs up inside of your nose? She started with why, and then what, how, and when. By bedtime, she came back to why once again. She drifted to sleep as her dazed parents smiled at the curious thought of their curious child, who wanted to know what the world was about. They kissed her and whispered, "You'll figure it out." Her parents kept up with her high-flying kid, whose questions and chaos both grew as she did. Even Miss Greer found her hands were quite full when young Ada's chaos wreaked havoc at school. But this much was clear about Miss Ada Twist. She had all the traits of a great scientist. Ada was busy that first day of spring, testing the sounds that made mockingbirds sing, when a horrible stench whacked her right in the nose, a pungent aroma that curled up her toes. "Zowie!" said Ada, which got her to thinking, what is the source of that terrible stinking? How does a nose know there's something to smell, and does it still stink if there's no nose to tell? She rattled off questions and tapped on her chin. She started at the start where she ought to begin. A mystery, a riddle, a puzzle, a quest. That was the moment that Ada loved best. We're going to put our bookmark right here, and we're going to come back to Ada Twist Scientist tomorrow in episode 2. I hope you come back. It was a pleasure to see you. Have a wonderful day. Science principle for today is an inclined plane. An inclined plane is also known as a ramp. An inclined plane is used to move large loads. An inclined plane is a flat supporting surface that is tilted at an angle with one end higher than the other. The inclined plane is one of the 6 classical simple machines. Inclined planes are widely used to move heavy loads over vertical obstacles. Examples vary from a ramp used to load goods into a store, or to a person walking up or down a pedestrian ramp, or moving something downhill as well. Automobiles and trains go over inclined planes when they go up and over a bridge. Today's scientific principle is an inclined plane. Now I'm going to demonstrate an inclined plane. That is an inclined plane. All right, that's the end of episode 1 of Principal Science. I hope you're going to come back tomorrow, and I'll see you each and every day, my friends. I miss you terribly. Ta-ta for now.